morning, everyone. It's Friday, April 23rd, and this is the fourth meeting this week of the Planning, Housing, and Economic Development Committee as we review the FY22 budget request. And we are continuing our work on housing and the Housing Initiative Fund. And council staff has prepared a memo. We took up a number of issues earlier in the week, and we wanted to get a chance to get more in-depth briefing on some of the new proposals. So we're going to get that today. So, Linda.
Yes, we were here this time last week, getting started.
Last week, yeah, it's a week ago today.
A week ago today. Yeah. So in your memo, I did just recap some of the things that were discussed last week, but where we ended was you had begun your discussion of the Affordable Housing Opportunity Fund. And I will let DHCA give you an overview presentation that they would like to give, but just to start by saying this is a new tool that they're proposing in the toolbox for acquisition and preservation, but this is the acquisition funding, short-term, 3 to 4 years at most, for affordable housing. And it would be in partnership with a community development financial institution, which is something different than what the county has done before. And when you consider your actions after we get the presentation and you go through your questions, and there are some questions in the memo as well, there's both an FY21 supplemental appropriation as well as the FY22 recommended CIP amount. So the committee would be recommending on both issues when you get to that decision point. And DHCA does have a brief overview that they would like to give you.
Okay. Any comments from my colleagues, or we can move to the presentation? All right. Let's have a listen.
Yeah. Let me start my video. Okay, here we go. Good morning, everyone, and it's good to see everyone. I'm glad it's Friday, and my Zoom is working, so that's a positive sign for today. And for those folks who may be joining us today, in the interest of the time, we will not rehash what the Opportunity Fund is about. Linda's packet does a super job in describing what the fund is and what it's supposed to do. And we have covered the basics on the Opportunity Fund over the last 1 year during different committee sessions per se. We do have a couple of slides to go over the questions that the committee raised last Friday. And after that presentation, we'll be happy to answer any questions. And the information presented in those slides, some may be a repeat information for the council staff. It's the same information that we went over in quite a bit of detail with the council staff last year in October. One thing I would say, during the last Friday's meeting, we were discussing about bringing efficiencies and more predictability and clarity to HEF, and Opportunity Fund does exactly that. We're leveraging county dollars. We are creating a separate acquisition financing tool with more clarity, with defined underwriting parameters, easy process in terms of closing, standard documentation, which you will see from the slide presentation. At this point, I'm going to ask Frank to go over there's 3 slides, and then we can go into the question and answers. Frank?
Okay, and
is Linda going to share the slides?
I'm going to load them up right now. And Linda, nod your head if it's visible. Okay, there we go. Thank you very much, and good morning. Thank you again for review and support for everything that we're doing. This Affordable Housing Opportunity Fund represents an approach, as the director was just speaking, to bring clarity and to identify specific dollars, specific funds, both county and the funds available from the private market that will be dedicated to a specific purpose of preservation. The structure of the fund is very much focused on organizing the commitments of private capital and doing that ahead of time based on the commitment of the county's funding. We believe that we will be able to get that organized and committed and available for the type of activity, the timing, the critical need in the acquisition. So this is about increasing available funds to county preservation efforts without the county having to provide those funds or to borrow and provide the debt service on additional fund generation. The other significant structural advantage is there are mission-driven financial institutions, CDFIs, that have experience and have worked with a number of jurisdictions to both arrange financing, but also to be able to underwrite those funds that they're bringing to combine with the underwriting of the jurisdiction, the county. And we believe that there are serious opportunities available by leveraging those skills. Critical to also understand all of the county funds will be managed by the county. We will approve all of our investments, and we will manage all of the lending activity on the county's funds. The question was asked about how this differs from what we can do today with the HIF funds and the HIF structure. And the fundamental difference here is, as was mentioned, the HIF can be a little bit difficult, can be kind of opaque, and can be not clear for all of the parties. And we believe by predefining eligibility underwriting and the dollars available, that we can be very focused on very specific activities. The county today can do this kind of lending, but we believe that by identifying these funds and committing them and having an understanding with the private capital on their rules, their underwriting, their eligibility, that can lend generally up to about 90% combined with the first trust lending, which is generally 75-80% maximum. The county can be involved in transactions with a lot less fund requirement from the county than if we did not have this kind of structure in place. We could get that down to as little as 10%. And if that is compared to being the primary supporting lender, we could do 2 or 3 times as many transactions. And we recognize that bringing the county's funds with other private capital funds needs to compete. And we believe based on market information, market practices, this will be very competitive with the alternative when acquiring with first trust lending, the competitive equity financing and other sources of funds to make up that difference. And the real focus of all of this is preservation of currently at-risk housing. We need to focus on those that are most at risk. The planning department's done a very robust preservation study. The department has its own approach to that. We believe that we can target and we can focus on those properties that are most at risk of losing their affordability to rent increases through redevelopment and the aging and recapitalization needs of properties that we can support through these vehicles with long-term financing. The fund will allow acquisitions to come into a pipeline that every property will include a refinance strategy that will focus on long-term affordability as the desired outcome. At the time of acquisition, there will be protections to assure that there are affordability conditions associated with the property during the financing, and then for the refinancing, the longer term, after the 3 or 4 years, to target the current use of the HIF funds, other affordable housing vehicles, the LIHTC structures and others, to focus on preservation of affordability for the 30 to 40 year horizon that's available with the long-term financing. So those are the questions we heard that we thought would be helpful at this point, just to clarify, and we're very happy to continue answering additional questions that help to clarify how we think this would operate.
Okay, so thank you for that briefing. To repeat what you said, the properties would need to have a long-term financing plan at the same time as they are being provided the short-term financing. Essentially, that's, it's part of your decision-making. You would provide this financing based on your evaluation of an applicant's long-term financing as well?
That's correct. It would not necessarily be locked down. I mean, every real estate transaction has issues. The urgency in acquisition is very short turnaround, but long-term takeout financing options need to be part of the proposal for the acquisition. And then we would work with the partners as we acquired and worked toward implementing those long-term financing.
And also, if you look at this short-term financing, I mean, this 3 to 4 year time frame will give an opportunity to the borrower to stabilize the property, put all the financing together. So, yes, going in, we'll know what the overall strategy is going to be, but then the borrower will have time to finesse that overall long-term financing over the next 3 to 4 year time frame.
Okay. I mean, one of the questions that we've had along the way is that projects tend to find short-term financing is easier to line up than long-term financing. And so, how much help is it really to provide them with lower cost short-term financing? You'll just have to, juggle that, I suppose. And it could be that this works for a different kind of provider than, a certain kind of provider, I should say. I don't know.
Correct. You're absolutely right. I mean, we do have some developers who have access to capital markets. They have their, lenders lined up. That's true. But then we also have developers who don't have the same financial means or to do it in an efficient manner. So we are creating a tool for them as well. So we are basically leveling the playing field for everyone to come in and use the tool to their advantage.
All right, let's hear from council members. Any comments, questions? Andrew.
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for putting this forward. I know you've been working on it for quite some time. I think we all share the goal of being able to do preservation and also production and figure out how to do them in a way that are complementary but not competing against one another. I do think short-term financing is probably an issue based on those I've spoken to with a number of affordable housing providers. I don't think it is the pervasive issue in affordable housing, at least from what I understand. When we last spoke about this, we had talked about, you kind of need both, right? You need to have the long-term financing, which is the primary function of the HIF's loan, portfolio, so to speak. And in certain circumstances where short-term financing is a challenge to be able to get to that point, having that ability to do that. My understanding is we have that now. I'm not entirely clear that setting up this account that gives you less flexibility to deploy the funds either way, which seems to me to be how they're being deployed today. If the funding is available, it would still be in the HIF, and we'd be allowed to do that. And so that's not totally clear to me, but I think that we could, this is also a situation where we're not committing long-term either. Unlike the Housing Production Fund and some of the other funds that we're talking about that have long-term complications and need to be worked through, I think could have a more dramatic impact, honestly, to the overall availability of affordable housing in Montgomery County. But with this, it's, this is a 2-year plan, but it's only a 1-year commitment. And I just wanted to understand if we commit to the funding in this year, unlike, a dynamic where we're taking on taxable bonds or GO bonds or some other, long-term commitment, what impact would that be from a financial and fiscal standpoint, but also just from a practical standpoint?
Sure. Excellent questions, Councilor Friedson. In terms of just, going over your first of the comments, this fund does provide flexibility. Yes, there is a need for long-term financing too, but then we also are saying we're creating a separate financing tool for acquisition purposes so that we can free up dollars in the current HEF structure for long-term financing. That being said, in terms of, long-term planning for this fund. This is going to be short-term financing. And just to be very clear to everyone who's watching us this morning, there will be no debt service that will be paid by the county on these funds. So unlike some other, geo bonds or other bonds where the counties takes on that debt and it counts towards their debt ratios, and the county will be on the hook to pay debt service for 20, 30, whatever the maturity on the bond is. In this financing structure, the county will not be on the hook. So it will not affect county's debt ratios going forward. And this we're asking for one-time funding from FY21, $8 million, although the original ask was $10 million from FY21 and $10 million from FY22. But the council set aside $8 million from FY21 and $6 million from FY22. So that's what is on the table at this point.
So I did want to say that one thing in response. My understanding is, so if the committee and the council were to fund both FY21 and FY22, there would be this $14 million allocation, and that part of the reason to have a defined allocation for this is because of the partnership with the Cdfi, because the Cdfi will want to know what funding is available as they work in the marketplace to help people find and acquire properties that we think should be targeted for preservation. When they make these loans, depending on how long they're for, if the council found in a year or two that you didn't think the experience of what was the result of this money, you could amend the CIP to not have any more projects from this particular fund structure, and then that money could be redirected back into the HIF as a resource. So, you would have to see what the experience is, but I do think that if the experience doesn't meet your expectations, that there would be a way to just actually stop, because these will be short-term loans. There won't be a 20-year obligation.
Right. No, I appreciate that. Is there an expectation that there'd be $56 million in loans deployed between now and the end of fiscal year 22? It's 14 million. I mean, we're not doing 8 and 6. We're basically doing 14 because fiscal year 21 is effectively over by the time we take this action. So we're basically, that's an accounting question, but not really a practical one. So, basically we're talking about $14 million from which is a huge amount of money for this fund. Do we expect that there'd be $56 million worth of projects to begin this?
Well, the proof will be in the pudding. That's what I can say. But based on the information that we are gathering, or based on our intelligence that we have been able to gather, there is a demand for this kind of fund. But to answer your question, whether or not we can commit all of $56 million by the end of FY22, that remains to be seen. I mean, I won't make false promises to anyone, because we do have to issue the RFP, we do have to select the Cdfi, we have to negotiate the documents. But what we are hearing from the marketplace, the need for this kind of acquisition financing tool is there now and going forward. So hopefully we'll be successful in deploying all of the capital in a short amount of time, but that remains to be seen.
And it is a function of the marketplace, right? And which properties are being offered, and the key that we're talking is being ready for that. We just don't know the timing or what types of properties, whether they'll meet our targeted objectives.
How long do you expect the Cdfi selection and the RFP process to take place, and when do you expect the first loan to be called upon out of the fund?
So as soon as the council appropriates the money, we'll move at lightning speed in terms of issuing the RFP and selection of the process. We expect that process to be around 6 months, a couple of months here and there. But hopefully this is all our expectation at this point. We have a reasonable belief that, first of the deals will start moving, pretty quickly as soon as we wrap up our negotiations with the Cdfi and the RFP process. Once the council approves the funding, it's not that we have to wait for, marketing. We'll be doing our own marketing, in the meantime. And once the Cdfi comes on board, they have all the staffing available, marketing tools, and, we have gotten very good information from Cdfis, as we mentioned in one of the slides. They'll be ready to go. So my expectation is hopefully by next, spring, in one of the questions that are posed to us about the reports on December 1st of this year and March 1st of next year, I'm not sure if we have, these identified by December 1st, although we can certainly send a report to the committee updating all of you where we are on the fund. But hopefully by March 1st of next year, we'll have transactions lined up. So how many and how big, that part we do not know yet.
I appreciate that. I think just based on that timeline, it just seems premature to me for us to be deploying $14 million effectively all at once, which is what we're talking about doing here. We're going to deploy FY21 the second we do it, and then we're going to deploy, FY22 $6 million July 1st, which could be, weeks later, for a fund that's not going to actually be issuing loans on the most aggressive timeline would be the winter. Would be halfway through the fiscal year at best. I mean, we'd be talking about January, February, March. If everything goes to plan, which we're in the middle of a pandemic and everybody's stretched thin, and I totally respect and appreciate that. I think it's an interesting proposal. I'm interested in seeing if it works. I would suggest that we do the FY21 money, hold off on the FY22 money, and then would be in a position to add FY23 money once we see where the fund is, how much money is needed. We'd still be committing to it, so you'd be able to engage. And ultimately, we're talking about, at least unless I'm mistaken, Ms. McMillan, recordation tax premium in the CIP. So it is a commitment, not just an operating budget commitment, right? You essentially would do both.
So the funding for this is the recordation tax premium that is dedicated to the CIP. So this funding is all in the CIP.
Right. So we could designate. I'm just saying there would be a PDF.
Right.
We could look at a non-budgeted year. We're only budgeting for FY22 now, but the CIP looks at a longer time horizon. We can. And then we can come back, and if the timing is off or if the numbers need to be changed, then we can address that in the next budget year, because ultimately we have to appropriate the recordation tax premium to the CIP.
Correct. The key for them to start with the RFP process would be to get the FY21 supplemental funding.
Yeah, so that's what I'm suggesting. We do the FY21 supplemental funding. We hold off on FY22 because I don't think the money is going to be needed, and that money could be deployed for standard HIF loans. And it seems crazy to me that we would be keeping money sitting in an account that could be deployed to produce more affordable housing, projects in the long-term financing, which is the primary concern for this new fund that's not set up yet. Give it time to set up, be reasonable with what, we can expect here. And that would bring us, by the way, more along the timeline that was originally suggested by the executive branch, which was 2 separate fiscal years. We've adjusted based on the dynamics on the ground here, where we're basically appropriating all the money at once. The original proposal was fiscal year 21 and then another in fiscal year 22, which would have been separated by 12 months. So I mean, this could be separated by 13 months, but it's effectively the same idea, and it would have the added benefit of freeing up money now to make loans now in the interim while this fund is getting set up, so that we're not putting all the money in all at once before the fund is even set up. So is there an issue? Would there be an issue?
Well, so I just want to make sure that I understand your recommendation then would be to take the FY22 funding that's in this CIP project and put it in the acquisition and preservation HIF CIP project.
Yes.
That's the normal HIF.
Yes, because this money would have to stay in the CIP.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I would, and exactly, which would free that money up for now to do standard loans. We would then come back, it's not like recordation tax premium is a one-time, this is not federal money that we're talking about, that we're not going to, and then we would have to appropriate that money next time. I mean, ultimately, this is money that would have gone, effectively to that we're dedicating to this. I just think it's premature to dedicate all of it all at once before the fund is even set up. I understand why that was being proposed. It's not really a criticism. It's just a reflection of where we are. And I think that allows the executive branch and DHCA to move forward, to bring the Cdfi online, to get this set up, to get it marketed. You'll have money in the account ready to go, and a commitment that the rest of the money, assuming that this can get off the ground and it works the way that you anticipate it will, which we all hope it will, we'll be moving forward starting July 1st of 2022, which is only, by the time this money gets deployed, 13 months later, which was around the same timeline that you were expecting before.
So
the only reason why that would be an issue is if you're expecting to do $56 million worth of loans before June 30th of next year, which would be a more aggressive timeline than what you were originally suggesting.
all I will say is first a comment and then just a question. Maybe that's for Linda purposes. As I mentioned, last Friday, it will not be end of the world for us if the funding comes in like 2 tranches. That's what you are proposing at this point. We can get started with the $8 million, but in terms of clarity and for CDFIs to go and look for transactions, it will be in the messaging that we provide to the CDFI. If we go down this route in 2 tranches, that as long as there is some reasonable certainty that another $6 million will be coming in, is the message that we're sending to the marketplace. That was my just general comment. But then my question here is, maybe this is for Ofen too, who may be on the line today. If this $6 million sits in a separate line item, and since monies are fungible and the money stays in HEF, so is this money going to be earmarked, for the time being, for the acquisition, for this opportunity fund per se, that we can tell CDFIs, look, that, the committee is going to recommend $8 million from FY21. However, they have not, released $6 million, but they will make that decision going forward. But here is the money sitting within HEF.
I'll respond to that. So this would make it more along the lines of exactly what was being proposed originally, which was 2 separate fiscal years of using a certain amount of recordation tax premium. The original proposal that was before us more than a year ago was 2 $10 million tranches of recordation tax premium over 2 separate years. And so it was going to show up in the CIP. We were going to see it, but you can't appropriate. We weren't appropriating next, a future year's budget year until the budget year. That's how our budget process works. All I'm proposing is that because we're using FY21 money, even though we're at the end of FY21, we'd effectively be skipping a fiscal year, even though it's the same timeline effectively. And the other alternative is to use the FY21 money into the loan and grant line, and then go FY22 and FY23. There are other ways to do it, but I think this is the one that is the clearest and makes the most sense and allows you to get started immediately. If you use FY21 money, you can get started the second the council approves it, which, I think that's what you want to do, and I think that you ought to do that. And this is just my suggestion. I have to hear what colleagues say, but this would put it along the same exact lines in terms of the timing of funding and the commitment to what was originally proposed by the executive branch, which is have a CIP PDF that has 2 fiscal years subsequent to one another, a 2-year commitment of a certain amount of money where we would be dedicating recordation tax premium, which is effectively cash in the capital budget for the purpose of creation of this fund. So that's the suggestion. Here it would have the added benefit of not having money sitting in an account for 7, 8, 9 months or longer that could be deployed for other loans. And so we could do both, because to me, that is the goal. We talked about it before. Continue to do the work that the HIF needs to do to create production of new projects that otherwise would not happen without the county's support as part of the capital stack, and allow for the short-term financing for those number of projects that otherwise wouldn't be able to move forward and get to long-term financing because of this gap that you're trying to fill, which I think, you know, is reasonable. So I'll yield back. Those are my thoughts. And that's
thank you. Before we move on, can you just restate again, as Linda did, just to make sure all following along, you know, understand the summary here. You were saying.
Yeah, I'm suggesting that we recommend appropriating the, you know, I guess we would be creating a PDF, but in the CIP, but appropriating the FY21 money as recommended, then show 0 in FY22, and then show the $6 million in FY23 in the CIP. And we would agree to that PDF, and we would appropriate. You know, there's 2 actions we have to take on these items, unless I'm mistaken, Mr. McMillan. One is we have to approve the PDF in the capital budget, and then the other is we have to actually appropriate the money, or here special, you know, a special appropriation or release of the funds that we've cordoned off, or whatever the case may be.
Okay. Yes. So if I understand, let me see if I understand your proposal correctly. On the FY21 supplemental, an amendment to the CIP, the committee would be recommending a change to the PDF that the executive sent over so that it would not show funding in 22. It would show the 8 million in 21. It would show 0 in 22. And then would you want to show 6 million in 23, or would you want to return to that?
I think we should show the 6 million in 23, because I think that it would allow for DHCA to have confidence from Cdfi partners that the anticipation.
So that would go. Then that would go into CIP reconciliation. We would have to fit that into 23, because it's the recordation tax money is. I don't know that. So the second part of what I thought I understood your motion to be was that since you're not appropriating the $6 million in FY22 of recordation tax premium, you would now increase the acquisition and preservation regular CIP project by $6 million. So instead of $22 million in FY22, you would have $28 million.
Yeah, that is right. The third part of it. But you're saying that if we add
23, you got to find 23.
Right, which the normal process is to have committees put things in for reconciliation. It doesn't always happen, as you know, but you could put it in as part. I would say that the other thing is that while it wouldn't show in the specific PDF for the Opportunity Fund, I don't think there's anything that would prohibit if so let's say next February, there were a lot of projects that came through, more than the $8 million worth. I don't know that anybody would be prohibited from using money from the Acquisition and Preservation Fund to go ahead with such a project. There wouldn't be a prohibition.
Well, that kind of gets an underlying point,
right?
Which is like, you don't need this exact structure. You could just do it through the HIF, but the executive has proposed this exact structure, and so that's what we're considering. But you could do it with 6 million. The FY21 amount is 8 million.
Right.
You could do it with 8 million, and then, the executive branch could say, we're reasonably confident we're on track, and we're telling the CDFI partner that we're going to set aside however many dollars, just like they're telling any other applicant that they're going to provide a loan. There isn't really a distinction there. So it's sort of more to their own internal process to provide that certainty and that decision-making timeline. But to, the specific thing, if I'm understanding it correctly, if we were to try to move money to FY23, we would have to then find that money in FY23 in the CIP.
Yeah, I don't think it, yeah, I understand the point. I get what you're saying.
So it might make sense to just say, do the FY21
let's start the fund with $8 million.
Yeah.
Let's, I think FY22, I think it's better to have that funding go towards, that could be,
if it's going well, they could do more than 8 million.
Broader acquisition and preservation, and then that funding would still be available for this if it's needed.
Okay.
That would,
Bill Girondo.
Yeah, it's been 45 minutes, and I'm, there's like decisions being made. I'd really appreciate getting in the conversation sooner on a committee of 3 people. I'm extremely frustrated with that right now. So just want to state that. This was proposed as 10 million and 10 million. We reduced it for affordability. It was supposed to be FY21 and 22. It's not going to cause any debt because it's cash in the CIP. I just think we should appropriate the funds. As Linda said, as Ms. McMillan said, if it's not going well and we want to move it back, we can move it back. We talk about ad nauseum providing certainty in financing so things can move forward. And this conversation has been uncertainty, the whole thing. And so just let them try to do it. If we get a year in and it's not moving, or we want to move the money back to the HIF, we can do that for projects. But just it's a strong proposal. We need to preserve affordable housing. We need to produce more. We need to protect renters. This is part of that mix. Let them go and try to make it work. They have CDFIs they've been talking to. It's a well-baked proposal. We've been talking about it for a long time. Just let's approve the money so it can get out the door. And if we need to come back, we come back. That's my recommendation. Seems, we've spent 45 minutes not talking about that. So if we're just going to do the 8 million, fine, I'll support that too. But I just would like it noted that I think we should just give them the entire money. We often make decisions on this committee and in full council to say we want to provide certainty to lenders. And I just think let's put the 14 million out there and charge DHCA and Director Nagam and his team to go out there and produce as much as possible. I think we don't know the answer to that. And if we see along the process we want to move it back over to the HIF, there's no harm, no foul. I think the potential for harm of providing uncertainty could produce less projects. I understand that the current HIF and its confusing configuration could do this, but there is something to be said by saying this is our exact goal with this exact money and what we're trying to accomplish with short-term financing. And so let's let them do that. There's still money in the HIF. Maybe put more for other projects, but let's let them do it. And that's my view on it.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm inclined to go with the 8 million in FY21. And Linda, talk to us about the ability to move it mid-year. What's involved if it, if as Councilmember Girondo was saying, as once we appropriate.
Well, I think this is where we'd need clarity from the committee on the recommendation. So right now you have $8 million in the expenditure schedule for FY21 and $6 million for FY22. You can keep that there and not appropriate FY22 yet, which would give you an option later of appropriating those funds a different way if you wanted to continue to show it in that PDF. But what I had thought I had heard was not to show or use the money in FY22 and to instead appropriate it to the Acquisition and Preservation Fund CIP, which is also a part of the HIF. I think this speaks to exactly the question, the issue that Councilmember Jawando raised, and what part of the proposal is to show certainty so that the CDFI partner has a certain amount of money to work with, which the executive branch has proposed the 14 million for that. Under the alternative, the CDFI would know that they had the 8 million, and then the question is, how do they know what to pursue beyond the 8 million?
Can I ask a question there, Linda? Is there anything that would prevent the DHCA from telling the CDFI that we have another 4 million or 8 million available for you this year?
It would be out of the HIF, not out of this particular project, so it wouldn't show that way.
Right.
I don't think there's anything to prevent that because you can do acquisitions out of the HIF.
Right.
I think that the question, and the relationship we don't fully understand because the department is trying to implement this new proposal is how the CDFI is going to be working with partners in the marketplace. And so, my understanding of having this certainty was that the CDFI would be working with partners in the marketplace and would be bringing forth acquisitions that had not come through they could come through a right of first refusal, but generally they would come before there was a right of first refusal in place, because they would be out there working and they would be trying to leverage their funds and make their financing stack. So, so it's this new relationship that I think is why DHCA, and jump in, but I think that's why DHCA wanted certainty around an amount of money so that the CDFI would understand when they're working with their partners and they're looking at properties, they would know what is available for the stacks of financing they're putting together. Is that
correct? Correct, Linda. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And, given the certainty that the county wants to provide, the council wants to send a message to the CDFIs, look, we are ready for preservation, whether it's transit corridors, Purple Line, elsewhere in the county, we are ready to go. So the more certainty that we can provide to the marketplace that we are committed as a county in this financing tools, the better it is going to be. Okay. So that's all I'm going to say from my end. So my suggestion would be, and recommendation would be, to have all of $14 million, getting appropriated to Opportunity Fund. And as Councilor Javand also mentioned, and Linda mentioned earlier, if things don't go well, which we don't think that way, the council has every right to reappropriate this money for another, line.
We don't actually. That's part of the issue. Is that we can't change that. So anyway, that's fine. I just wanted to make that point. We're not able to do that. Once we establish it for this in this fund, that's where it has to be. We could come back and with anyway, it would be very complicated to undo it once it's done. I guess
you certainly, once you appropriate for FY22, you cannot disappropriate that money. Right,
but
that's correct.
So I'm going to go with the idea. Let's go ahead with the 8 million now, and then put the remaining into the HIF and get it going. If it's going well and you want to use more funding for it, you've got that option. You've got a HIF to allocate to great projects as they come to you. And I'm taking this posture because I have been concerned about getting money in the HIF out the door. And I don't want to see money stacking up and then not getting used. And so I think having the more flexibility, so that if it turns out that the number of projects you can do in the short term is fewer through this fund, then you would have more money to do through a different fund. But if it turns out more, you also have that option. I just think granting you more flexibility, you have the ability to put as much money towards this as you want, and provide, I think, as much certainty to a CDFI as a CDFI would need. So I'm not convinced there's a distinction to the CDFI over this amount versus what we're doing now. And, I think, so that's why I think it's fine.
So I just want to clarify one thing. So for the CDFIs, are we saying that it's only $8 million and then $6 million, although it comes back into HEF for FY22, is $6 million out of FY23 still in the play?
We're not doing FY23. We're saying $8 million now. We'll put the remaining funding, the $6 million, into the HIF, and then that's there. And if you want to use that, it's there for you. You can use more than that. If you need to use less than that, it's all there for you.
So I guess my question that I was going to ask was, assuming we are successful in launching this financing tool and we have transactions lined up, if we need more money for this fund per se, is there an opportunity to move money out of HEF?
Yeah, because I think what we're saying is the fund is kind of an artificial construction. What really matters is the amount of money. I mean, you could provide more money to the Cdfi than is in this fund. The Cdfi is functionally not different than another applicant. So, you've created this structure because that's how, you've conceived of it, and that's fine. You don't actually have to conceive of it this way. It could just be a commitment to provide funding to the Cdfi for the project. So you can do more than this amount for the Cdfi. You have that discretion within the HIF.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that will till Cdfi is $8 million out of FY21. If you need more money, then that's something which we can look into. We can move money out of HEF into this fund.
You could do more. Yes, you could do more in the short. I mean, it's all up to you based on, in my understanding, it's all up to you based on how you choose to allocate the HIF. And you certainly have parameters around how you allocate the HIF, but there's a little bit of an artificial limitation created by this fund structure that isn't actually a limitation. It's just it. So I just want convey that to you. You've got more flexibility here. You could proceed with this Cdfi model in advance of approval of the appropriation. I mean, you can do a deal as you want to do deals according to your general restrictions. Okay. That was helpful for me to get clear on too. So,
thank you.
All right. So, Councilmember Chawanda.
I just want to be noted, Linda, for the packet that I'm not in favor of that approach. And so when it goes to full council.
All right. 2-1 on the committee recommendation there. Okay. Next item.
So I did have just two things that I wanted to raise around this proposal, but I think one of them was around the affordability, but I think that discussion really is also a function of the long-term financing strategy and how they will review the projects that come forward, both for the short term and the long term. My understanding is from talking with DHCA some more, the goal is to acquire quickly and to not displace tenants and to keep the existing affordability, at least in the short term, and that in the long-term financing strategies, there could be discussions about how permanent or deeper the affordability might be. So I'd like just DHCA to give you a comment on that. And then I did want to see if the committee did want to include the requirement for a report as a part of the approval.
Linda, you very well mentioned about the affordability. So the whole idea is to move quickly and to have, minimal displacement, basically no displacement in the interim. And then as the permanent financing is put together, we always look for as long of affordability as possible. And in our typical projects, 30, 35, 40 years, in a ground lease, 99 years, 50, 60. I've done any variations between, 30 years and 99 years in my prior life. So that will be our goal, which we will negotiate as we put the permanent financing together. Thank you.
Yes. Okay. And then the other issue that I had in the packet for you was to have two reports transmitted in FY22. I did pick the December 1st date and April 1st date, knowing it would take a while to get the contract in place. And this would just report to you on the activity of the fund, but also some specifics about the kinds of projects that are coming forward in terms of price and affordability. I think maybe we could add something about, any affordability in the long-term strategy that came forward, and also whether the development's located within a mile of Metro Purple Line or BRT, to sort of, get to this issue of where are the acquisitions occurring, and are they in line with what the park and planning study discussed as, the most at-risk properties.
Yeah.
So if we did this, I would just ask that we put this in the language of the PDF, so that it's a requirement.
Can we do that? Yes. So again, Linda, we're looking at the bottom of page 4, right?
Yes.
And you've got some criteria that you're recommending for the funded proposals. This is for a report, right? This isn't necessarily like a criteria.
This is a report. It's not anything setting their parameters or requirements. It's just a reporting back. And I tried to highlight the issues that I thought were of importance to the committee based on, your discussions about affordability and at-risk properties.
So we have talked about creating funding, and we will return to it in our summer discussion about the Purple Line corridor. We could put that limitation in here. We're not going to do that. At least I'm not recommending we do that. But we will get reports on that, and we'll see what we think. Okay. Any objections to that? No. All right. Thank you.
And then just the last issue, and I did have a discussion with the HCA about this, but we've had a lot of discussion about rental housing. But given the discussions also about home ownership, one of the questions I just had was, as we look at targeted properties, whether something could be purchased by a partner who would try to work to make long-term affordable home ownership out of what might be a rental property now. And I think from talking with DHCA, there's certainly no prohibition, although I think the expectation is the acquisitions will be around rental properties, because you wouldn't be able to acquire something that's already a condominium. You would be acquiring a building that's a rental property.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right in your assumption. Yes. Thank you, Linda.
Okay. All right. So that would finish up the discussion of the Opportunity Fund. Then on page 5, this is just a requirement that the council has under the current payment in lieu of taxes law, which is that the council does have to set a limitation over the 10 years. I know, and I noted in your discussion last week, you talked about returning to this law, but at the moment the law is in place. And so DHCA has recommended the limits for the next 10 years, but I do need a committee recommendation to approve that.
Right. This is for what the existing law.
Yes, and these are non-HOC payment in lieu of taxes.
Exactly.
Right.
Okay. And we've already noted we're going to be returning to the pilot issue generally.
Yes, you had indicated you wanted to review the current law, but for the budget cycle, we'll need to comply with what's in place.
Right. And we're drafting legislation on that. Okay. Andrew.
Yeah, could I just get clarification on this, of whether this is preventing any affordable housing projects, the current pilot cap? I mean, are we hitting the limit? Are you turning down applications currently?
The short answer is no, we are not turning down any applications. We have, sufficient room within the cap that we have currently, and it all depends what the assessments are in any given year. So as is currently planned and is laid out in the package here, we have sufficient room for new projects.
Okay. Well, I was going to say, if we were hitting the cap, I would say that we should increase it modestly in order to ensure that we're not turning down projects. But in light of the fact that we're not, then I'm comfortable approving this and then coming back to the broader policy issue after the budget.
Okay.
Okay. The next issue is on page 6, and this moves you into the CIP amendments. For the first one is for facility planning. There is a recommendation to reduce the FY22 amount. This is the money that's available to DHCA to do the planning before something becomes a CIP project. And I would recommend approval, and Mr. Anderson is on also to be able to speak to you about that. If there's any questions.
Facility planning for HCD. So is that their own buildings, basically?
Yes, this funds their staff to look at the studies.
Chris, you want to give us a quick synopsis?
Yes, these are funds that we request every year in the CIP to help us do the initial work to plan projects that will later be funded with CDBG funds. We do need to use county funds for the initial planning because we don't necessarily know if a project will be eligible for CDBG funding until we're actually able to get in and do the study, do some surveys of incomes in the area, and other things. And it also allows us to have some draft proposals that we can take to the community and get comments. And so these funds over the years have funded some staff time and some time of consultants that we use to put together and flesh out some of the proposals for some of the projects that we're doing. For example, one of the projects we're doing right now is undertaking a study of and we've mentioned this before to the committee, doing a study of integrating Purple Line stations into communities. And we're working with DOT, we're working with other agencies, specifically now in Long Branch, we're putting together a study to help address the areas that are not addressed within the other CIP items through DOT and through the state funding.
Great. Thank you.
All right.
No? All right. Good to see you.
Okay. The next
Keep
one
going.
is the
I'm probably still staying with Mr. Anderson.
Yep. So the next one is the county-wide facade easement program. And there is an adjustment to this in the March PDFs. This is a county-wide program, but it does say that the projects that are served are Glenmont, Lay Hill, Montgomery Village, Hillendale, Wheaton Central Business District. The changes have to do with property owner who is now interested in moving forward in FY22. There's been some back and forth on the funding given some delays from the pandemic, but now we have property owner moving forward. It's the same amount of total funding. There's no change in total funding. I did just want to say that last week you did receive some emails about Hillendale. And so there was some good back and forth on that, and about the areas in Hillendale that can be served. There was concern that it was too specific to the opportunity zone area, but it's not, and actually the property owner is not in that opportunity zone area. There were also a couple of questions raised about just how DHCA, balances facade improvements when there might be other long-term vision in the master plans, and then also right-of-way. In this particular case in Hillendale, there was a question about BRT right-of-way, but this could be an issue anywhere countywide, and I thought I'd just let the department talk to you a little bit about the program.
Great.
Right. So this is a departure from what we've done in the past with our facade program, which previously had been targeted to specific areas. And when it's targeted to a very tight specific area, it does make it a little more difficult to spend the funds and get the projects done in a timely manner. So we had proposed doing a countywide program where we would, and when we mention those target areas, really we should specify that it is a countywide program. It's not limited to opportunity zones, although we mention that because it's good for owners to know if they're in an opportunity zone, because that can help leverage other funding for them. And those targeted areas really are just the areas where we intend to begin marketing the program. But if we had an owner come in that was not in one of those targeted areas, we would certainly sit down and talk with them and work with them to see if they had a viable project. The project in question with the CIP amendment is in a very busy area, actually in Hillendale. It is a property that was specifically targeted by the community, and in which several community members have expressed a very strong desire to have something done with that property. It's directly adjacent to the Hillendale Gateway project, which is the redevelopment of the Holly Hall site. So we believe that it is a good candidate for this program. We think that it will make a good change in that Gateway area, and it will complement the ultimate Holly Hall redevelopment, which also has some small scale, low scale commercial at the northern end of that development along the Powder Mill cul-de-sac. So we feel very strongly that this is a good project. The owner, we had actually engaged the owner prior to the moving the funds to future years, and so the owner had actually gotten quite a ways down the road with his own planning, and then the funding was moved to out years because of the CIP budget situation. But this would allow us to accommodate that owner who really is ready to go with this project and has already started to engage architects. It does have some schematic drawings of what the property would look like.
So was the community concerned that why would we provide support to a property that's going to get redeveloped? Was that the gist of it? Or maybe I direct this to Linda. Can you summarize, is there a proposal that we should be discussing right now to make a change, or has this been worked out? Chris, please.
Yeah, I could address that. This is actually not a site that's scheduled for redevelopment. It's directly adjacent to the Holly Hall redevelopment site.
Yeah.
In the cases of, we have not had it happen before, where one of our facade easement properties was later slated for redevelopment within the 15-year easement time period. We don't believe that this individual property would be slated for redevelopment within that 15-year period. However, one of the provisions of the program is a buyback provision, where if something happened and there was a proposal that came forward that was going to move forward, we would work with the owner, and there's a formula that we use to determine, a prorated formula to determine how much of the easement has
residual value.
Right, exactly.
Okay, great. That's good to hear. Linda, you're muted. Yep.
I would recommend approval of the March amendment from the executive.
Okay. Without objection.
And then the last item in this packet is actually the DHCA, sort of the remainder of the operating budget, which frankly is pretty uneventful. And so I did just give you the overviews of the general fund and the grant fund. You can see that there's a 2 points. This does not include the HIF. So when you look at in the budget document, there is a section on the HIF, which we've already discussed, which makes their total appropriation much bigger. But the general fund appropriation not related to the HIF is $8.8 million, and the grant fund is $9.7 million. I listed for you that there's little change in the general fund. It really is compensation and all the centrally budgeted and accounted for items. There's a list there. The changes in the grant fund are driven by expectations for community development block grant, home and emergency solutions grant, but it's always an assumption sort of based on prior year. I would just say not included in this are some of the CDBG, CV, the coronavirus specific funds that we've been receiving for the homeless system and for rental assistance. So this is the funds that have been coming in over the years. And there was a detail in your packet of the different uses of the funds for housing preservation, for group home rehabilitation, and grants to nonprofit organizations. That is included in the packet. And then the one issue that I did want to just highlight for you, it's not a budget issue per se, but I did think that having an update on where we are with code enforcement would be helpful because, as you know, code enforcement was significantly impacted by the pandemic. We wanted to keep people safe, both residents and staff, which meant not doing the proactive inside program that has been so important. But I thought I would let DHCA just give you an update on where we are. They have always done health and safety inspections, so there's never been a question about that. But I thought I'd give you an opportunity to hear an update from them. And I would also mention that, you know, when we were in the beginning stages of reopening, a lot of DHCA staff was able to work on other duties like being ambassadors and doing a lot of other things really, really important to the county, you know, getting back on track and reopened. So I'd turn it over to DHCA on that.
Sure. Thank you, Linda. I can start and then I'll have Chris chime in on this. So as Linda mentioned, we have been doing inspection on an abbreviated manner. You know, it's basically health and safety. We are doing outside inspections for foster care and adoption cases. In any given year, we do anywhere from 35,000 to 40,000 inspections. That has not been the case during the last 1 year because of pandemic. So there is a backlog of inspections. So we are working on a plan. In fact, the county is working on a plan in terms of, you know, how to bring back the employees. So depending upon what the situation is, how, you know, with the pandemic, we are coming up with a plan. Of course, everything will have to be negotiated with the unions as well. And then our hope is that we can have the inspectors come out in a short order so that we can start working on the in-unit inspections. And there's a huge backlog of those inspections at this point. So there is a, you know, plan that we're working on. We'll be talking to the unions before anything moves forward. Nothing is set in stone per se at this point, but we are very much aware of the backlog of inspections and what needs to be done. Chris, you want to add anything?
I would just add that we have begun our discussions with the union, and we're very sensitive to the concerns of the inspectors and the employees. We want to make sure that we do this reopening correctly and in partnership with the union. We're also sensitive to the community. You know, a lot of people did not over the last year want an inspector coming into their apartment while this pandemic was at its worst. We do feel that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And so we are beginning the discussion to make sure that we do the reopening and the re-engagement primarily in the multifamily individual unit inspections. We still have been doing common area inspections in multifamily properties, specifically the troubled properties. We just have not been doing individual inspections unless it has been a life and safety issue. And as Asim mentioned, we've been doing ADU inspections, foster care and adoption inspections. And I just want to, you know, acknowledge once again the code enforcement staff who just really did an exceptional job as the ambassadors. At the beginning of this whole pandemic, when we were all very unsure of what was happening, they were out there in the community, meeting with business owners, communicating the most current information about what the rules and the restrictions were regarding the pandemic. And I know that they are all eager to get back to work. And to be perfectly honest with them, they are all working in some capacity, with the exception of just a very few who are on administrative leave due to personal issues or family issues. But they are working in some capacity, whether it's been doing exterior inspections that are not related to multifamily. So we have seen a reduced caseload, but we still do have a caseload. And just to let you know, our full contingent of housing code inspectors is 35 inspectors. We are now currently at 28 inspectors, and that will be the situation until we fully reopen. And then once we reopen and are back doing our full range of work, we will begin interviewing to do staffing up again so that we can meet all the objectives of the Housing Code program.
So
I mean,
are code inspectors, sorry, are code inspectors vaccinated?
I'm sorry, could you say that again? I'm sorry.
Have the code inspectors been vaccinated?
We're not allowed to ask that information. We are encouraging people to get vaccinated. We have, as a department, reached out to the agencies that are responsible for administering the vaccinations to make sure that at some point our inspectors will receive a front-facing employee consideration. And we are we're making sure everybody is aware as fully as possible of every opportunity to get vaccinated, but we've been told that we cannot ask the question as to whether someone's been vaccinated. However, our goal is once we have established what our work program will be and our reopening will be, we will work with the union and work with the employees, and at some point that will become the normal, and people will be expected to meet those work responsibilities.
I mean, we did
designated as front-facing.
Yeah, I mean, we did send a list of our front-facing employees, not just code inspectors, but other front-facing employees to HHS. And my guess is they have been contacted. At the same time, under HIPAA guidelines, we cannot ask the question, whether or not you have been vaccinated per se. And if you just going back to what Chris was saying, if you look at our ambassador program, our inspectors did a superb job, which was picked up by the media as well, in terms of going out and monitoring the businesses, whether or not, they are following county opening, rules per se. So they have been doing, the best they can, but we are in a different situation at this point. So even though we may have a backlog of cases, this is not because of, anyone's fault per se. So we have been doing the best we can in terms of serving our constituents.
I guess I'm a little confused here. We're not sending people on code inspections because we're concerned about their health. We have vaccinations that are available to them so that they would be safe doing code inspections, but we're not asking them whether they've been vaccinated. Do I have that right? So we're just allowing for a lack of inspections, and there's no relationship between getting vaccinated and getting back to doing the code inspections?
So I think some of the questions that you're asking are, personnel and HIPAA, not necessarily DHCA questions about the ability to ask an employee.
Well, but it would be the ability, because it has been my understanding, and maybe this is incorrect, that vaccinations are available to county employees at this point without any limitation, basically. And therefore, it would be normal to operate under the assumption that county services could resume because anyone who wants a vaccination can get one. I thought that was the case. I thought that any county employee who wanted a vaccination could get one.
I can follow up with Dr. Stoddard about where they are with the front-facing employees. I know that.
I don't know what argument we have to tell people to stop providing county services because county employees, on the assumption that county employees haven't been vaccinated when they can get vaccinated if they want to.
So let me follow up with Dr. Stoddard and find out where they are with the lists that the department provided. I think this is the same thing that's keeping the libraries closed. I mean, this is it's just something's off here. I think it may be countywide, government-wide, but I don't get it. Things don't add up to me. Okay, if you could please follow up with Dr. Stoddard, I appreciate it. I will follow up with Dr. Stoddard.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you.
Thank you.
And so that really was the one issue within the non-HIF operating budget. that I wanted to bring forward to you, because as I've noted, there really aren't budget changes. It's a very consistent budget. I would just say that I would suggest that in the fall we have an update on code enforcement when there is a reopening plan that's been put in place, so we know where we are. And the second is in the fall to have an update with the common ownership community and include members of the commission in that discussion.
Let's do that.
Okay, and that's all I have for the committee.
Okay, thank you. We have a variety of recommendations that we discussed, and we've voted on, we've had a 1-2-1 vote. So all those in favor of everything else, raise your hand. And we voted separately on the 2-1. And we are done. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hey, have a good weekend. All right.
Have a good weekend. Bye-bye.